first in East Bengal, Bangladesh, and then he met the Goswamis and gave them the message. And
No, actually, he didn't start it. It is mentioned that he revealed his Sankirtan mission for the first time in East Bengal. वो तपन मिश्रा से मिले थे, and then he kept it confidential for quite some time. तो बस बिकॉज यहाँ पे आ रहा है कि या वहां पे स्टार्ट नहीं हुआ था. उन्होंने उनको गया में उनको हर इनिशिएशन मिला, उनके गुरु ने उनको हर ये मंत्र दिया. And then while he was returning to Navadvip, then he was like, oh, he was God madden state में थे. He was like he was acting like a, यहाँ पे जैसे mention है, he was acting like a live wire, and his devotion was affecting everyone जो भी उनके proximity में आ रहे. So yeah,
okay, bro. Yeah.
okay. So we'll start. So both stuffy intellectuals and armchair philosophers would uncharacteristically sing and dance if Sri Chaitanya crossed their path. Professional reciters of scripture who were hardly faithful practitioners would easily be transformed into serious devotees by something as simple as his glance. Businessmen and even kings would almost mystically cry in ecstasy by his mere touch. Sri Chaitanya's contagion of divine love cut through all social stratification and caste barriers. So there was no caste barriers, and there was no consideration of caste. कोई भी उनके contact में आ रहा था, he was getting affected. He and his followers, who by the time he and his followers, who by the time he returned to Navadvip were increasing by the hundreds, successfully established the Sankirtan movement of chanting and dancing as the prescribed method of God realization for the current day and age. तो दिस इज ऑब्वियसली ब्रीफ में है ये सब कुछ जो चल रहा है वो डिटेल में. बट यहाँ पे आ रहा है कि जब तक वो आए नवद्वीप में तो दिस ये जो संकीर्तन मूवमेंट है ये एक ये इस युग का एज ए युग धर्म ये एस्टेब्लिश हो गया नाम शफी. So then in February 1500 and just prior to his 25th birthday, Sri Chaitanya entered the monastic order of sannyasa, shaving his head and donning the robes of a celebrate mendicant. तो यहाँ पे इन्होंने संन्यास लिया 1510 के पहले. Just after accepting this renounced order of life, he intended to go on pilgrimage to Vrindavan, the transcendental village where Lord Krishna had invented some 4,500 years earlier. तो ये भी एक इंटरेस्टिंग है यहाँ पे ये वृंदावन जाने का भी जो महाप्रभु का स्टोरी है. तो हर बार ये जाना चाहते थे लेकिन इनको somehow he was not able to go. कभी अलग अलग ये नित्यानंद प्रभु ये लोग अलग कॉन्स्पिरेसी करके. तो anyway, we'll get to know. So, but his intense desire to go to Vrindavan would not be realized on this occasion. His associate Nityanand Prabhu had conspired with the other devotees to bring him back to Shantipur in West Bengal in order to lovingly associate with him one last time before he assumed his role as a traveling mendicant. तो ये लोग समहाउ इनको कंफ्यूज करके घुमा फिरा के ये वेस्ट बंगाल में ही रह गए। जाना चाह रहे थे वृंदावन, बट ही वॉज इन शांतिपुर ओनली इन वेस्ट बंगाल। Okay, so since we are actually reading about six Goswamis, so this is more in connection with Lord Chaitanya's pastime in relation to six Goswamis is more, I think, emphasized here. Anyway, so it was here in Shantipur that Sri Chaitanya met Raghunath Das Goswami. Chronologically, he was the first of the six Goswamis that Sri Chaitanya would meet. The 15-year-old Raghunath Das had run away from an extremely wealthy family. His father, Govardhan Majumdar, was in fact a multimillionaire. So ये रघुनाथ दास जो थे, he was very young when he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he came from a very wealthy background. his his father Govardhan Majumdar was in fact a multimillionaire. But the young boy had heard about Sri Chaitanya from his earliest days, and thus fervently wanted to adopt the life of a traveling mendicant, emulating Sri Chaitanya by totally devoting himself to the service of the Lord. After 10 blissful days in the company of his intimate followers, however, Sri Chaitanya was ready to move on, and the young Raghunath Das returned home. तो यहाँ पे 10 दिन इनके साथ रहे जब वो मिले यहाँ पर शांतिपुर, and after that he returned home. From Shantipur, Sri Chaitanya went to Jagannath Puri, for he had promised his mother that he would make Puri his headquarters. तो वो स्टोरी आता है, वो डिटेल में है किस तरह से फिर वो सची माता जो है वो चाहती थी कि संन्यास लिया, उनको ऑब्वियसली उनको अच्छा नहीं लगा। वो चाहती थी कि चैतन्य महाप्रभु एटलीस्ट उनकी आंखों के सामने रहे, पास में रहे। तो दैट्स वाई ही उनसे प्रॉमिस लिया कि आप ये पूरी में ही हेडक्वार्टर रहेगा आपका। वी सी कि चैतन्य महाप्रभु का काफी मेजर जो उन्होंने जो स्पेंड किया अपने संन्यास के बाद टाइम वो पूरी में। तो इट वाज इन close proximity to Navadvip, and she would thus regularly hear news of his activities. In Puri, he met Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya. He is another important figure in Chaitanya Leela, Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, a great scholar of the period. Sri Chaitanya succeeded in impressing the Bhattacharya with his devotion and scholasticism, thus winning him as a disciple. So ये Bhattacharya जो थे वो, he was not a devotee, so to say. He was impersonalistic, impersonal philosophy follow करते थे. But later he turned after, I mean, debating with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and discussion. Finally, you can say he got kind of defeated and he accepted this devotion to Krishna. So soon after, however, Sri Chaitanya decided to tour all of South India. Externally, he stated that his journey was primarily to search for his brother Vishwarup, के बड़े भाई थे विश्वरूप, जो कि वो भी बहुत बचपन में ही घर से निकल गए थे, संन्यास ले लिया था। यार आ रहा है यहाँ पे, who had taken sannyas much earlier and had traveled into Maharashtra. But तो उस बहाने से ये बोले कि निकले थे। But his inner purpose was to bring his method of divine love to all of India as an aromatic flower brings a delightful fragrance on a spring day. So he wanted to spread this divine love to method of divine love to all of India. So proceeding south, Sri Chaitanya met Ramananda Rai on the banks of the Godavari River. The word Godapari indicates the summit or fulfillment of the senses. Godavari indicates the summit of summit or fulfillment of the senses. And his dialogue with Sri Ramananda unmistakably takes its listeners beyond that level of perfection. तो बहुत ही काफी हाई लेवल का डिस्कशन हुआ था यहाँ पे इनका श्री रामानंद राय से. So these conversation constitute the zenith of spiritual knowledge. Fortunately, they have been recorded for all time by Sri Chaitanya's biographers, particularly Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj in his Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So yeah, that's all this is recorded by so many of his you could say जो जो की लाइन में आए फिर स्पेशली चैतन्य चरितामृत जो कृष्णदास कविराज ने दिए. So Sri Chaitanya was so moved by this dialogue that he revealed to the Rai his manifestation as Radha and Krishna. So combined Radha and Krishna का फॉर्म उन्होंने इनको दिखाया रामानंद राय को. In the past, he had revealed to other devotees his form as Vishnu, the universal form, and even a highly esoteric six-armed form, but only to Ramananda Rai did he reveal his complete ontological nature as a dual manifestation of Radha and Krishna, the original spiritual couple. Hmm. So, as Sri Chaitanya progressed on his journey southward, he visited many holy places, further sanctifying them by bringing the divine name and teaching others how to chant with great devotion. So, toward when he went south, I mean, more South India tour जब किया, so he actually went to so many places. And generally, even in ISKCON today, when we go to on some pilgrimage, so so it becomes easier कि हाँ चलो कहाँ कहाँ जा सकते हैं because चैतन्य महाप्रभु गए तो obviously it becomes a place of importance for a Gaudiya Vaishnava devotees to visit those places. So yeah, so now even today many devotees go to those places where he went. So he visited many holy places, further sanctifying them by bringing the divine name and teaching others how to chant with great devotion. Soon he reached Sri Rangam. Sri Rangam, yeah, I have been there. वहां भी गए थे वो. And there he stayed at the home of Venkat Bhatta, a South Indian priest. यहाँ पे ही साउथ श्रीरंगम में ही वो स्टोरी भी हुआ था, वो जो आप लोगों ने सुना होगा, वो ब्राह्मण है, कोई लिटरेट है, and he was reading Bhagavad Gita ulta, and then but he was reading just because his guru had ordered him to read Bhagavad Gita. तो वो जो वो श्रीरंगम में ही यहाँ पे ही हुआ था. तो एनीवे, तो यहाँ पे ये मिले किससे, किसके घर पे रुके, वेंकट भट्ट जो एक साउथ इंडियन priest थे. So Venkat and his two brothers, Tirumala and Prabodhanand Saraswati. As I mentioned, there would be different, so many new names for you, but yeah, just be patient when we'll get comfortable with all these names. तो वहाँ उनके घर पे रुके वेंकट and his two brothers, Tirumala and Prabodhanand Saraswati, frequently engaged in religious dialogue with Sri Chaitanya. They would often discuss and compare the Supreme Lord's Aishwarya feature, Topil Narayan, as he is worshipped in Sri Rangam, with the Lord's with the Lord's with the Lord's Madhurya aspect, the sweet, loving personality of Sri Krishna, as envisioned by Sri Chaitanya and his followers. So Sri Rangam में जो mood है, वो नारायण worship करते हैं, and they're more in the mood of that. तो ऐश्वर्य जो भाव है उनका, ऐश्वर्य जो reverential feeling है, वो ज़्यादा dominant. And here Lord Chaitanya was obviously giving this माधुर्य aspect. So उसके लिए दोनों के बीच में वहाँ पे discussion चल रहा है यहाँ पे इनके बीच में. And he was stressing, and he was kind of saying that yeah, this madhurya aspect is higher. So both features of the Supreme are genuine and are revealed in the Vedic literature, but Sri Chaitanya's conception proved superior in the end, for love outshined opulence. Love outshines opulence. This truth is self-evident and is endorsed by the scriptures. Further, the scriptures are emphatic about Krishna's supreme position. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So Srimad Bhagavatam में directly आ रहा है. Ete chams kalapamsham Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. That is, Krishna is the original and supreme personality of Godhead. This is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, 28 verse. The frame of ancient India's scriptural legacy. So, after describing various manifestations of the Supreme, this most important Vedic text declares in no uncertain terms that the Krishna conception is complete, primeval, and the last word intransigence. So, even though Narayan is again same, I mean, Krishna and Narayan, some one and same person only, but still, conception of Krishna is complete, primeval, and it is the last word in transcendence. Beyond this, there is nothing. So these ideas were accepted by Venkat and his brothers, particularly Prabodhananda Saraswati, who became a staunch follower of Sri Chaitanya. और वेंकट के जो सन थे, Venkata's son Gopal Bhatt, a young boy who was fortunate enough to hear his father and uncles debate with Sri Chaitanya, was also moved to become a serious follower, and he eventually became the famous Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So he became one of the six. So Raghunath Das Dekhamne, now this is Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who is this from South India, son of Venkat, and he became inspired. He became, yeah, he eventually became the famous Gopal Bhatta. So after meeting the second of the six Goswamis, अपने जो महिपाल प्रभु हैं, उनकी जो मम्मी है, she is initiated into this Gopala Bhatta Goswami. So yeah, after meeting the second of the six Goswamis in Sri Rangam, Sri Chaitanya traveled further south. So he further traveled south, completing an exhaustive 4,000-mile walking pilgrimage throughout the Deccan. Sri Chaitanya returned to Jagannath Puri toward the end of 1512, winning the heart of Maharaj Pratap Rudra, the king of Orissa. Sri Chaitanya taught him the religion of chanting and dancing. महाराजा प्रताप रुद्र जो थे उड़ीसा के राजा उस टाइम में, उनको भी उन्होंने ये बताया है, chanting and dancing. So as the yearly Rath Yatra, the festival of the chariots, was underway, and as Sri Chaitanya and Maharaj Pratap Rudra took part in it, the subcontinent of India seemed to inundated with love of God. But after 2 years of relishing spiritual exchanges with his intimate followers in Puri, Sri Chaitanya again decided to attempt a pilgrimage to Vrindavan. And so in 1513, with a retinue of enthusiastic followers, he started for the holy land of Lord Krishna. So now again he's planning for pilgrimage to Vrindavan after returning from South India. Once again, however, he was detoured from his goal. फिर से इनके साथ फिर से कुछ तो problem. As Nityanand Prabhu and the residents of Navadvip had distracted him from going to Vrindavan just after his sannyas initiation, this time too his plans would be changed by divine providence. फिर से ये नहीं जा पाया. तो यहाँ पे The reason यहाँ पे बता रहे हैं कि commentators suggest that these diversions were meant to increase the sweetness of his eventual success in his journey to Vrindavan. तो होता है ना कि 4 बार we are trying something and you fail and then when you finally achieve तो वो उसका जो खुशी होता है वो और भी ज्यादा होता है तो लाइक दैट तो स्वीटनेस और बढ़ जाए तो इसके लिए दिस इज व्हाट commentators suggest. So just as the love of God in separation, vipralamba rasa, is sometimes considered more intense than in union. Vipralamba means separation. So separation wala hai, जो है sometimes it can be more intense than sambhoga in union. The desire to go to Vrindavan became overwhelming because of his inability to do so. The anticipation magnified the joy. So this is what happened. So this was to be his second attempt, but while en route, he passed through Ramakeli and there he met Dabir Khas and Sakkar Malik. तो यहाँ पे आ गए अपने रूप गोस्वामी एंड सनातन गोस्वामी. So ये जो जा रहे हैं वृंदावन इस टाइम तो ये he was going through Ramakeli again. Ramakeli is a place in Bengal only. So तो यहाँ पे ये मिले दबीर खास सकर मल्लिक. तो ये दोनों these two brothers were employed by the Islamic occupational government in Bengal. तो उस समय we know that 1500 के टाइम में इस्लाम का काफी दबदबा था. तो ये लोग वहाँ पे employed थे. So these two had corresponded with Sri Chaitanya and had lamented that although they were originally priests from Karnataka in South India, they had now based themselves by associating with Muslim political leaders who had no regard for the higher spiritual values of life. So ये originally ये लोग Brahmins थे, but now they have got converted to this Islam, Kabir Khas and Sakar Malik, and they were employed there. But yeah, so they corresponded with Saint Chaitanya and they were lamenting at how they were previously Brahmins and now they are associating with this political Muslim leaders. So anyway, so initiating तो इनका फिर अलग story. Anyway, वो बाद में आएगा स्वामी. Initiating these two brothers into the Sankirtan movement, Sri Chaitanya revealed to them their eternal relationships with him. Then he gave to the elder brother Sakar Malik the name Sanatan Goswami, and to Dabir Khas he gave the name Rupa Goswami. So, and Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami all are prominent, but we are called Rupa Nugas. So Rupa Goswami especially again he's the most prominent you can say. So they were to become two of his most important followers. Being senior men, competent in many languages such as Sanskrit, Persian, Arabic, and other local dialects, and being experienced in worldly affairs as well in religious doctrine, they would become the natural leaders of the six Goswamis of Vrindavan. So they were like the leaders of this within this faculty of this six. So Sri Chaitanya instructed them to go to Vrindavan and unearth the 10 hidden holy places of Lord Krishna's advent. So many places, Joki, uh, because of the influence of time, so lost ho gaye the kaun sa. So they discovered which was the place where kaun sa pastime performed was. So today, what the Vrindavan which we see, and they have actually unearthed that so many hidden holy places of Lord Krishna's advent. Yes, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. So due to the passage of time, these sites had become obscure, and due to Islamic fundamentalism, holy shrines had, in some cases, been destroyed. But now Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis would re-establish them. In addition, Sri Chaitanya asked Rupa and Sanatan to compile exhaustive treatise, treatises on the science of Sankirtan. These would become widely known as the revered Bhakti Sastra, or scriptures that elucidate pure devotional sense. तो इन्होंने हमने प्रेयर में भी हमने देखा नाना शास्त्र विचार एंड करने को तो इन्होंने काफी राइटिंग उन्होंने दी है काफी सारे इनके वर्क्स हैं जो they wrote many scriptures. So after this historic meeting with the third and fourth of the six Goswamis, so first हो गया Raghunath, second is Gopal Bhatta Goswami when he went to South India, then this Dabir Khas and Sakar Malik in Ramakeli, yeah, while en route to Vrindavan, he met them. So this they became third and fourth. So after this historic meeting with third and fourth of the six Goswamis, Sri Chaitanya cancelled his trip to Vrindavan. In fact, tradition holds that he actually did not, in this particular case, desire to go to Vrindavan at all. Rather, he merely used this as a pretext for meeting Rupa and Sanatan. So yeah, ये भी ये है कि उनका प्लान ही नहीं था वृंदावन जाने का, but rather he wanted to meet Rupa and Sanatan. Geographically, this theory holds much weight, especially, yeah, this is again another logic here being mentioned because he is geographically, especially since Ramakeli is hardly on the way to Vrindavan. So, yeah. Any comments? Any comments so far? Questions? Hare Krishna. I think there's nothing.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
One small query. First of all, Dandavat Pranam to you and a very good morning. Where can we find saints of the caliber of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in today's time? Is it true that they have become very few in number, or maybe not even there at all, the saints of the level of Prabhupada or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and where we can meet them in India and take spiritual guidance from them? That is my query.
Hmm. Good question. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is obviously is Krishna himself. So you won't find somebody of the caliber of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He God himself and he is coming as a devotee and is displaying how to do devotion. And again, say Srila Prabhupada also is a Senapati Bhakta. He was especially empowered soul, Sakyavya Sartar. And so maybe they are not, but their mercy is still flowing through their disciples. Their mercy is still there. The teaching is still there. Yeah, if we are sincere, I mean, if we are serious, if you want to know, yeah, there are so many. Even today, also, there are so many of his disciples who are carrying his legacy, who are teaching. I mean, who are very much uh, who has dedicated who has dedicated their life for this mission, preaching the state Lord Chaitanya's mission. So, yeah.
I'm
Uh,
going to Ujjain Mahakal next month,
mhm.
Mahakaleshwar. So super excited if you can suggest some saint over there. Because
I
उज्जैन
don't
में
know.
बहुत powerful saints होते हैं.
I don't know about Jain Mahakal. मतलब कौन सा
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, so I'll continue. So as the pastime unfolds, however, Sri Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis, who were employed by the Sultan Hussain Shah, reminded Sri Chaitanya of the tension between the sectarian Hindus and Muslims and insisted that he would not be safe traveling to Vrindavan at this time. So It seems like um, ordinary feelings going on. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu को warn कर रहे हैं, that's not safe. But they were obviously, we should know कि they are playing the role of human beings. So yeah, तो यहाँ पे वो उनको बोल रहे हैं कि it's not safe to travel to Vrindavan at this time. Further, they reminded him of the etiquette for sannyasis, that they should not travel with large retinues like some worldly king or opulent politician, especially to a holy place such as Vrindavan. Sri Chaitanya seriously considered their arguments and decided to return to Puri. Okay, so now on his way back from Ramakeli, however, he stopped at Shantipur to visit his mother and the other intimate followers living in the Navdvip area. There he met Raghunath Das Goswami for the second time. Now the boy was 4 years older. He was 19. तो 4 साल पहले मिले थे, उस समय 15 थे, अभी वो 19 हो गए थे. When he was returning back to Puri, so he again stopped at Shantipur. So, and although he still wanted to renounce his riches and become an ascetic, Sri Chaitanya instructed him to wait for the proper time. तो वो वेल्दी थे लेकिन इनको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता था एंड ही वांटेड टू रिनाउंस एवरीथिंग. चैतन्य महाप्रभु ने उनको मना किया है करने को. तो श्री चैतन्य instructed him to wait for the proper time, perhaps when he was more mature. Submissive to Sri Chaitanya's direction, the boy returned to home after approximately 6 days. Having instructed Raghunath Das, Sri Chaitanya returned to Puri. तो दिस इज ये जस्ट अभी ब्रीफ में आ रहा है इन सब के बारे में कि किस तरह से किस ऑर्डर में मिले या क्या हुआ चैतन्य महाप्रभु का. आगे फर्दर ये हरे गोस्वामी के बारे में थोड़ा और डिटेल में बताया गया है. So, but he could only remain there for a few months before he became anxious once again to go to Vrindavan. So now again Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is desiring to go to Vrindavan. This, his third endeavor, he was successful. Traveling with Balbhadra Bhattacharya and his assistant, Sri Chaitanya passed through the dense Jharkhand forest in an attempt to avoid the Muslim soldiers about whom Sri Rupa and Sanatana Goswami had given warning. तो यहाँ पे ही ये जो झारखंड फॉरेस्ट के थ्रू जो गए थे यहाँ पे ही उन्होंने he made animals dance on Hare Krishna Bhavan. So reaching Benares, Sri Chaitanya stayed at the house of Tapan Mishra, वही तपन मिश्रा जिससे वो ईस्ट बंगाल में, who had been instructed to reside there while in East Bengal and was now living with his family in a simple cottage. तो ये बनारस में एक सिंपल कॉटेज में रह रहे थे. At this time, Sri Chaitanya met Raghunath Bhatt, the fifth of the six Goswamis. He was the young son of Tapan Mishra and would become well known as consummate chef, singer, and reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam. After staying with Tapan Mishra's family for 10 days, Sri Chaitanya proceeded to Vrindavan. I think इनसे ही ये सुनते थे चैतन्य महाप्रभु भागवतम and we would love to listen. यहाँ पे so anyway, ये रघुनाथ भट्ट जो है ये तपन मिश्रा के son and he met him at Benares and he became a famous reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam. So after staying with Tapan Mishra's family for 10 days, Sri Chaitanya proceeded to Vrindavan. Finally arriving in Mathura, Krishna's birthplace, and then moving on to Vrindavan, Sri Chaitanya was in his own element. He had finally returned in a spiritual sense, as he was considered non-different from Lord Krishna, who never sets foot out of Vrindavan. Now 30 years old, he at last succeeded in coming home, back to the land of Krishna, although in this incarnation it was to be his first and last visit there. So we finally वो आ गए his original land. As he went to the various holy places associated with the Lord's pastimes, especially the 12 forests of Braja, he was recognized even by the animals who nuzzled him as if to welcome an old friend. यहाँ के एनिमल भी इनको recognize कर रहे हैं. Sri Chaitanya's appreciation of Vrindavan was beyond words, and his already uncontrollable ecstasy increased by magnificent proportions. In the winter of 1516, after an ecstatic pilgrimage throughout the Vrindavan area, Sri Chaitanya proceeded back to Puri, passing through Prayag, Allahabad, where he instructed Rupa Goswami for 10 days, and then returned through Benares, where he instructed Sanatan Goswami for a period of 2 months. तो या तो यहाँ पे प्रयाग में भी रूपा गोस्वामी का है वहाँ पे काइंड ऑफ क्या है वो टेम्पल है क्या है वहाँ पे थे रूपा गोस्वामी वहाँ पे मिले थे वहाँ पे 10 days उन्होंने इंस्ट्रक्ट किया था सो ऑल दीज प्लेसेस एक्चुअली जहाँ पे भी ये एक्चुअली मिले हैं और जो उनका डिस्कशन हुआ है या जो भी मीटिंग हुई है दे आर वेरी potent place and devotees go there uh, yeah they sit and they discuss and that's very powerful place all these places जहाँ भी ये Chaitanya Mahaprabhu है. So and then return to Banaras. Sanatana Goswami को भी दो month वहाँ पे भी उनको भी instruct किया. So while in Banaras, it is said that Sri Chaitanya converted Prakash Anand Saraswati, then one of India's most famous impersonalistic philosophers. This won for Sri Chaitanya great fame and tens of thousands of additional followers. तो ये बनारस में वी नो बनारस में आप लोगों ने सुन आई डोंट नो बनारस में जो शंकराचार्य मतलब अद्वैत वाले मायावादी जो हैं ये लोग उनका काइंड ऑफ गढ़ था ये और ये प्रकाशानंद सरस्वती इज आल्सो he was also one of the famous impersonalistic philosopher impersonalistic मतलब जो भगवान का निराकार रूप को मान रहे हैं कि अल्टीमेट अद्वैत वाले तो इनको उन्होंने कन्वर्ट किया था into worship of Radha and Krishna. And after that, he became very famous. And बहुत सारे उनके followers पड़ गए श्री चैतन्य. So after returning to Puri, he spent the remaining 18 years of his life in an exalted state of spiritual absorption, instructing followers, exhibiting mystical, ecstatic symptoms, and inspiring others to the level where they too would shed tears of divine love. वो पूरी आते हैं और 18 years लास्ट के जो थे वो पूरी में थे जहाँ पे he would show all sorts of emotions and I mean totally he was basically totally absorbed and people were inspired and यहाँ पे आ रहा they would also shed tears of divine love. So once during these latter pastimes he uttered the Sikshastikam. So this is Sikshastikam is his only written work by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, 8 prayers that are attributed to him as an original composition. These were written down by his intimate follower Sri Swarup Damodar and have been preserved by Tilak Kavidas, Krishnadas Kaviraj in his Chaitanya Charitamrit and by Rupa Goswami in his Padyavali. Other than these few stanzas like Jesus and other than these few stanzas like Jesus and Buddha before him, Sri Chaitanya committed nothing to writing. Rather, he instructed his intimate followers to codify and elaborate upon his already profound theological system. तो उन्होंने खुद से नहीं राइट किया उनके जो इंस्ट्रक्शन है उनके जो टीचिंग्स हैं उसको उनके जो ये जो 6 Goswamis हैं इन्होंने उसको elaborate किया उसको they actually written so volume of work. So in this respect, Sri Chaitanya has been compared to Socrates, just as we know of Socrates and his teachings not from his own writings but to the writings of his disciples like Plato. So also we know of Sri Chaitanya's philosophy principally through the writings of his spiritual disciples. तो पता नहीं आप लोगों ने नाम सुना होगा mostly because they are very famous. The Socrates and Plato, famous philosophers from the West. So yeah. So this comment especially refers to the six Goswamis of Vrindavana. They, in particular, codified Sri Chaitanya's teachings, elucidating every philosophical detail in complex Sanskrit jargon. For instance, Sri Chaitanya's philosophy of the holy name was certainly demonstrated by the ecstasy he often displayed while chanting. But the understanding of just why such chanting should lead to rapturous spirituality was not given philosophical ground until the works of the Goswami. तो जैसा कल भी हमने पढ़ा था कि ये सिर्फ डांसिंग और कीर्तन चल रहा है और पीपल माइट वुड एट सम पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम माइट क्वेश्चन किया ये सब सेंटिमेंटल इमोशनल है तो उसके पीछे जो फिलोसफिकल ग्राउंड है ये उन्होंने गोस्वामीज ने दिया तो या they gave rational argument for Sri Chaitanya's conclusion that Lord and his name are one. So it is not just mere sentiments. There is the philosophical ground usko काफी systematically present किया. So since God is absolute, the Goswamis taught there is no difference between him and his name. Thus, when chanted purely, the name puts one in direct touch with the Supreme. This was experienced by Sri Chaitanya, catapulting him into spiritual ecstasy. This was also experienced by the Goswamis, and they put their conclusions into writing. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited him by his own character, how just by taking his name, Krishna's name, how he was getting so much ecstatic and he would faint and he would do. So that's the potency of the name. जैसे वो उनके शिक्षाष्टकम में आता है नाम नामकारी बहुधा निज सर्वशक्ति. This name has all the potency. And इसका कोई नियम भी नहीं तत्रा पिता नियम मरणेन कालः. But I don't have any taste for this. Okay. So Norman J. Hain, Professor Emeritus of Religion at Yale University, very nicely articulates the Goswami's conclusion of holy name theology. So he's another one of the best. I think इन्होंने forward लिखा है इसका. तो वो बोल रहे हैं conclusion दे रहे हैं गोस्वामी conclusion का क्या है. So they, the six Goswamis, dare to say not merely that the power of God is present in such recitation, but that when the name is uttered in faith, God Himself is present. The Vrindavan Goswami call this belief the doctrine of Nama Naminor Advaita. Nama Naminor Advaita. Nama Naminor Abheda. Means there is no non-difference between the named one and the name. कि नामी और नाम में कोई डिफरेंस नहीं. नामी मीन्स हो गया द पर्सन एंड नाम मीन्स द नेम. तो दोनों में कोई डिफरेंस नहीं. तो जीव गोस्वामी in his Bhagavad Sandarbha states the main point bluntly. Bhagavat Swarupam Evana. The name of the Supreme Lord is his very essence. Jeev Goswami in one passage actualizes this possibility by remarking about the name. Speaking of avatars, the descent of God, this is an avatar of the Supreme in the form of syllables. Varnaru Varnaru Pena Avataroya. Okay, Varnaru Pena Avataroya. मतलब कि वर्ण के रूप में in the form of syllables, this Krishna is descending. So in the form of syllables, this avatar is नाम के रूप में अवतार है, वर्णारूपेण अवतार है. So in this way, Sri Chaitanya's philosophy was given academic language and annotated for future generations. But in this task, the Goswamis were not alone. Other important compilers, editors, and philosophers of the Chaitanyite school include dozens of notable personalities whose unique contribution should not be underestimated. तो उनके 6 Goswamis तो ऑब्वियसली ने दिया ही, उनके साथ उनके लाइन में फर्दर जो आचार्य आए उन्होंने भी contribution किया. So still having been Sri Chaitanya's direct disciple, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavana are doubtless the most prominent of all. So since they were direct disciples, so obviously they were more prominent. Like now, हम जैसे बोलते हैं जैसे he's Prabhupada disciple, so direct disciple Prabhupada. So they are like heavier. I mean, it gives more weight. ये Prabhupada के disciple. So it might be mentioned here that Jiva Goswami, youngest, if also the most prolific of the 6, was not a direct disciple of Sri Chaitanya, but was rather a disciple of his own uncle Rupa Goswami. So in 6 में से Jiva Goswami जो थे, who was a prolific writer, he was very scholarly. He was not direct disciple of Sri Chaitanya, but was rather a disciple of his own uncle Rupa Goswami. Consequently, some scholars opine that Sri Jiva never came into direct personal contact with Sri Chaitanya, or never even saw him. And they compare him to Luke or even Paul, who never came into contact with Jesus. So somebody who might be knowing about Christian, uh, so Luke or Paul, they are important figures. So उनसे compare किया. So, but the great teachers of Chaitanyite Vaishnavism describes a meeting of sorts. But यहाँ पे एक meeting हुई थी उनकी, ये बहुत interesting meeting है यहाँ पे. But the great teachers of Chaitanyite Vaishnavism describe a meeting of sorts. In the Bhakti Ratnakar, for instance, Narhari Chakravarti tells us that when Sri Jiva was a mere child, he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Ramakeli. रामकेली में किससे मिले थे चैतन्य महाप्रभु? रूप गोस्वामी and Sanatan Goswami से, if you remember, थोड़ी देर पहले हमने पढ़ा था. The story runs as follows. Since Sri Rupa and Sanatan were important officials in the Muslim government, they had to meet Sri Chaitanya secretly, and therefore they did not bring Sri Jiva, who at the time was a small child. Nonetheless, the boy hid nearby and watched his uncles and father. The father name was Vallabha. He was Rupa and Sanatan's younger brother. तो रूप और सनातन मिलने जब गए थे, तो जो boy hid nearby and watched his uncles and father. The father's name was Vallabha, he was Rupa and Sanatan's younger brother. Okay. Lovingly converse with Sri Chaitanya. तो रूपा गोस्वामी और सनातन गोस्वामी दोनों जब मिल रहे थे, तो ये वहां पे सीक्रेटली वहां पे इन्होंने वो दूर से देख रहे थे. So this same clandestine meeting with special attention to Jiva Goswami is mentioned by Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur in his Navdvip Dham Mahatmya. In one sense, it may be questioned why such a meeting should be considered relevant. If Sri Jiva was just a child when he saw Sri Chaitanya, it may be said that the meeting was devoid of any real meaning. But Sri Jiva, like Gopala Bhatt, Raghunath Das, and Raghunath Bhatt, who were also very young when they met Sri Chaitanya for the first time, eventually decided to devote his life to Sankirtan mission. This was the effect that Sri Chaitanya had. By merely catching sight of him, people's hearts were touched, and regardless of age, caste, or creed, they became inundated with genuine spiritual insight. Thus, Jiva Goswami's eagerly meeting with Sri Chaitanya's Jiva Goswami early meeting with Sri Chaitanya must be considered a significant occurrence. तो यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन आ रहा है कि जीवा गोस्वामी बच्चे थे, उन्होंने देखा भी मान लो दूर से, तो व्हाट डज इट, इससे उससे क्या ही हो गया, कितना सिग्निफिकेंट थी. बट देन यहाँ पे आ रहा है कि रघुनाथ दास गोस्वामी जब मिले थे तो वो भी छोटे थे. बाकी लोग जो मिले, क्या नाम है अपना, गोपाल भट्ट गोस्वामी, वो भी वेंकट भट्ट के बेटे थे, वो भी छोटे थे. तो meeting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can turn anyone's heart. So by merely catching sight of him, their hearts were touched. So it is significant here that Jiva Goswami actually saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his when he was child. So to recapitulate, except for this incident with Jiva Goswami, Sri Chaitanya met the six Goswamis in the following order. First, he met Raghunath Das in Santipur. Then he met Gopal Bhatt in South India. He met Rupa and Sanatan at Ramakeli. And finally, he met Raghunath Bhatt in Benares on his way to Vrindavan. Although Sri Chaitanya's pastimes are replete with mystical occurrences and profound theological revelations upon which we have not even touched, his respective meetings with the six Goswamis of Vrindavan constitute the most monumental developments in the early history of his movement. For it was they who initially gave academic shape to Sri Chaitanya's incomparably profound teachings. According to Chicago University Professor Edward Dimock, the six Goswamis among them produced over 219 different works in Sanskrit. It is most significant that they wrote in Sanskrit, tying every teaching of the Bengal school into the orthodox tradition of Indian religion. तो जो भी लिटरेचर्स दिए हुए हैं, it was actually yeah, it is not just independently कोई भी बंगाल का जो लिटरेचर है वो independently कुछ बस वो वहीं तक लिमिटेड, but actually it has relation with the orthodox tradition of Indian religion. And yeah, और वो उन्होंने संस्कृत में दिया, और उसके साथ में और भी जो बंगाल में फर्दर बंगाली में भी राइटिंग्स है, बंगाल लैंग्वेज, all have actually, all is connected actually. So interestingly, before Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Chaitanya Charitamrit, that is before the early 17th century, the concept of six Goswamis does not appear as such in any of Sri Chaitanya's authorized biographies. So this is interesting. ये जो सिक्स गोस्वामीज का कॉन्सेप्ट भी है, ये आ रहा है कृष्णदास कविराज के वर्क से. उसके पहले ये कॉमन नहीं था by terming them as six Goswamis. So Murari Gupta, perhaps the earliest biographer, mentions all except Jiva Goswami. वृंदावन दास तो और भी जिन्होंने लिखा है चेतन महाप्रभु के ऊपर, उनके बारे में आज मुरारी गुप्ता के वर्क में जीवा गोस्वामी का ज्यादा नहीं है. वृंदावन दास ठाकुर, another early biographer, mentions only Rupa and Sanatan. Kavi Karnapur, in both his biographical poem and drama, refers to Rupa Sanatan and Raghunath Das Goswamis. Since the conception of the Goswamis as an authoritative unit did not fully develop until the time of Chaitanya Charitamrita, this work will primarily be based upon that later text. Although Chaitanya Charitamrita refers to the six Goswamis as a single group, the actual epithet Choi Gosai, is found for the first time in the poetry of Narottam Das Thakur. Soon after, it was also used in the writing of Srinivas Acharya and the generations of devotees who followed. The important contribution of these stalwart Vaishnavas, especially those in the six 16th and 17th century will also be used as a reference throughout this book. Other source material, Bhakti Ratnakar, an important 19th century Bengali work. Its 15 chapters survey the development of the Sankirtan movement from Sri Chaitanya's time to the end of 17th century. Also referred to here, and perhaps more important for our present work, is the storehouse of transcendental knowledge available in the many writings of Srila Bhakti with Vinod Thakur and His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, without whose grace and blessing this book would be a useless waste of paper. तो इसमें बेसिकली ये बता रहे हैं कि किसके कहाँ कहाँ से वर्क को रेफर करके ये बुक लिखा हुआ है. So if trees are to be sacrificed for the sake of this work, we only pray that their sacrifice does not go in vain. So see, and this again shows the mood. मतलब ये लिख रहे हैं, obviously paper waste, paper is going to be used, so they are praying that the sacrifice or a paper it doesn't go in vain. So Sri Chaitanya taught that a spiritual seeker should be more tolerant than a tree. Tarurapi Sahishnuna, for a tree gives shade even to one who cuts her branches. But if it could, even a tree might protest much of today's literature for which vast forests are sacrificed. Such unnecessary exploitation of the environment speaks directly to the state of modern man, who neglects his genetic bonding on with all that lives, including trees, rather than ecologically rape the world in which we ourselves must live. Man should carefully consider the value and necessity of the literature he produces, sincerely praying that this work does not inadvertently contribute to this modern day carelessness by promulgating even subtle materialistic views. I begin by echoing the words of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj. Chirupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Sri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. Echai Guru Karo Charana Vandan Yaha Hite Vigna Nas Abhishta Puran. I pray to the lotus feet of my six instructing spiritual masters, Sri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva Gopal Bhatt and Raghunath Das, so that all impediments to my writing this literature will be annihilated and the real desire of all living entities will be fulfilled. Okay, so this ends now. Take a second. ओके, यहाँ पे इम्पर्सनलिज्म क्या होता है वो बताया गया है. मायावादी ये सब दिया हुआ है. हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र. ओके, वी कैन स्किप दैट. So now here it starts with Raghunath Das Goswami. तो ये इंट्रोडक्शन खत्म हो गया. So we can end here. We can resume tomorrow.